Greetings and welcome back, y'all, to another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. I hope y'all had a great summer. If you're down in the northern sections of Florida and parts of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, you might not be having such a great time right now. I'm sorry to hear that. This is just, every time there's a natural disaster, it just upends everything as we know it. So my heart goes out to you people, Hawaiians, Mauians. Anyway, let's get started with this week's new releases, because at least these senses of normalcy sometimes take our minds a little bit out of the depression of those sorts of things. So there are a lot of new releases this week. I think there's even more coming next week. We're going into a holiday weekend. This is Labor Day 2023. These are the new releases. Actually, I did not even mention for September 1st. So happy September. So we will be closed actually Sunday and Monday. We're always closed Mondays, but close Sunday and Monday this weekend. So we just need a little extra time to recalibrate and get ready for the fall. And but there are a bunch of new releases scheduled for this weekend. So if you can get out Friday, Saturday, if that's what you're going to do, or whatever your plans are. Okay, so first big new release of the week. Should it come as a shock to anybody? No. There's another Neil Young. Now, this one actually looks really interesting to me as a live record. This is Neil Young and with Crazy Horse at the Odeon Budokan, Japan. This is live in London and Tokyo, so Odeon being London. 1976, solo acoustic and electric with Crazy Horse, first time on vinyl. At least officially, there might have been bootlegs. But this is a really interesting set of songs, I think. Side one is The Old Laughing Lady, After the Gold Rush, Too Far Gone, Old Man, and String Man. And then side two is I Don't Cry No Tears, Cowgirl in the Sand, Lotta Love, Drive Back, and Cortez the Killer. So, and this one's not a break the bank one either, so it's not even as much as the recent double album he put out of his unreleased recordings from 77, unreleased. So anyway, new Neil Young. All right, new records this week. There are a few, actually. The first one I'm going to mention, probably their last album was probably the biggest seller of these three for me. This is the new Royal Blood album. And Back to the Water Below is the name. This is a limited edition, clear vinyl. Their last record did very well. I think it might have had some sort of Josh Homme connection or something. But it's two guys, and they crank up a lot of sound between the two of them. And this one I think is sort of, they said, more of a return to the roots of their sort of darker, rockier sound, probably. So it's a great cover art piece, that jellyfish image. So anyway, Royal Blood, Back to the Water Below. All right, the one that I'm probably personally most excited about this week, and I've talked to a lot of other people who are too, Slow Dive, and this is their new album. It's called Everything is Alive. This is a limited edition crystal clear vinyl version for indie stores. Cover is sort of minimal, as some of their album covers are. I suppose that what I would say about Slow Dive is, they're labeled as a shoegaze band. They broke up for a really long time because they were sort of on a minor role in the 90s, and then they kind of I want to say alienated people, but their third album, Pygmalion, was certainly non-commercial and more keyboardy and less guitar-y, and people sort of drifted from them. And then for a long time, Neil Halstead and Rachel Goswell, and they sort of went other ways and did other projects. Mojave 3 came back and decided, we're going to try and do Slowdive again, or at least did some shows, and then that became a reunion, a full reunion. So this is their second album since getting back together. And they're always just kind of like finding new ways to project their sound. And this is probably going to end up on my top 10 of the year. It's just a very, I would highly rank this album. 8 tracks. They're long, but not super long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. This probably would have come out, they said, 2 or 3 years ago, but the pandemic sort of prevented them from being in a room recording the way that they wanted to instead of over Zoom or whatever. So, new Slowdive. The other new record that I'm also sort of really liking is the new Sigur Rós Ata, and this actually started streaming on the internet, all the streaming services, a couple months ago, and it's finally made its way to a physical version. I love this cover art. I think it's very eye-catching. Um, well, what can I say about the music? I mean, they're Icelandic, sort of glacial sounding in a way. There's not a lot of drums on this record. Well, they had some issues with their drummer, who's no longer in the band. And there's really only 2 of the songs that feature somewhat kind of a drum pulse to them. The rest are pretty drifty, orchestral sort of compositions with Yancey's voice kind of like flying over the top of them. But it's pretty emotionally arresting stuff. It's not really for everybody, and it's not necessarily, you're not going to hear a lot of English on it. There's a little bit. It's more about the voice and the sound of the music, and yeah. I don't even know if it's necessarily Icelandic. I mean, he calls it Hopelandic, which is sort of a kind of like what Cocteau Twins would have done, almost like a sort of made up type of language. But all right, enough of I'm not an aficionado on it. All I know is I like the sound of the music. That's the main thing, right? All right. New Jeff Rosenstock album. This is called Hell Mode, and this is a limited edition color vinyl. It says the 5th and Furious studio album from Jeff Rosenstock. So, all right, some crazy cover art there. Yeah, recorded by Jack Shirley. Yeah. Anyway, check that one out. And another new release, Frankie and the Witch Fingers, sort of psychedelic-y. Fanta Orange vinyl, special edition color vinyl. They've put out some stuff for record store days. This features 9 tracks. There's a song called Mild Davis. Mild Davis. All right. Let's see. So, reissues. We have a week of a couple tone poets. The first being Big John Patton. This is called Let 'Em Roll. It's on Blue Note. It's the normal remastered cut by Kevin Gray, a Coherent Audio, recorded by Rudy Van Gelder from the original analog tapes. Features Grant Green, Bobby Hutcherson, and Otis Candy Finch. Should be a really good record, actually. Some of these are like really almost obscure to the point that haven't seen them in decades, which is the whole point of the series, I suppose. The other one is Wayne Shorter, Schizophrenia, and this is sort of, I think, a hard to find one. Let's see. This one has Curtis Fuller, James Spalding, Wayne, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Joe Chambers. This one, I think we got a little shorted on our supply. I'm trying to get more. Usually there are more of these things. I don't know, because sometimes they either run out or they have a run on one title. This is kind of why I sort of recommend that if you're into buying a series like these, that you really probably want to think about getting most of them and not skipping. The reason being that a lot of the distributors, well, Blue Note in this case, might not exactly know how much to make of something. And if the demand all of a sudden spikes on one record, but they're always making the same amount, sort of, because they think it's always the same number of people coming to them, that can be a bit of a shock. And then all of a sudden, you can't get that one that you really wanted that was in some series or whatever. So I understand why people can't afford to do every one, but it also, don't be upset when you can't find it for a little while or maybe at all, because it's just, that's just the way, the nature of the beast, unfortunately. It's like collecting anything, you know. It's like, oh, I gotta have that one. And yeah, well, they made like, 1,000 of each, but that one. Anyway, okay, I think you understand where I'm going with that. Another reissue this week, Wilco Sky Blue Sky. This had been out, available on other issues, but this is a actual sky blue color vinyl, and this one is one of their really stronger sort of mid late albums. I say mid period, I guess now. Impossible Germany, Hate It Here, Either Way, and Side with the Seeds. This is a limited edition too, so I don't know how many. Did they only make 1,000, 2,000? It's hard to say. Sometimes you just don't know. Another jazz release, Ornette Coleman, Tomorrow is the Question. This is Craft Recordings, and this is, I think, one of his sort of like, I'd call it like a seminal classic or whatever, but features Don Cherry, Shelly Manne, Red Mitchell, and Percy Heath, all analog mastering from the original tapes by Bernie Grunman. And these are kind of these nice, the term is tip-on jacket, where they're a little bit like thicker. It doesn't have a fold over on the back, but they're definitely thicker, slightly taller. All right, next one, Crosby, Stills, Nash. Well, I mean, you can find this record out there in a lot of places, just a regular edition of this. But this is kind of nice. This is sort of Atlantic again, celebrating its 75th anniversary. And this is a crystal clear color vinyl. It's crystal clear color, not really, but anyway, this is their legendary 1969 debut, featuring Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, Wooden Ships, and Helplessly Hoping. So I think there's probably a market for that. The Viagra Boys, Street Worms. This is a reissue of their sort of, I would call it maybe breakthrough album from 6 years ago. This is sort of the one that kind of put them on the map. It has the Wiener Dog song on it. So this has been reissued. Fairly nondescript on the back, but yeah, great cover art. Their new one did very well. It was one of my top 3 albums of the year last year. For those who like things like Iggy Pop and stuff like that, it's more of a kind of a punky kind of electronic kind of rock grunge sort of thing. Not really grunge, electronic rock, I guess. It has some electronic elements, but Gentle Giant, Interview. This is probably one of their last really highly rated records before they kind of started to like Lose It With People, I guess, mostly in the 70s. But let's see. This one, the big thing here is that this is a Steven Wilson remix, 2023. And guess what? It's on sky blue vinyl also. They must have thrown this and the Wilco in the same pot and said, plus, we've got this. And then we had. Ah! Sorry, trying not to dump things. This, which is, again, what. I know this is like a flag, but it's like, wow, there's something in the water here. September, I don't know, but Gentle Giant's Interview, again, highly rated sort of prog rock classic. I think I need to take a break now. The next Atlantic reissue is John Prine's self-titled, and this is also on clear vinyl. This features Hello in There, Paradise, and Angel from Montgomery. This is one of his most famous albums. I think the cover is basically all the same. Let's see. So getting into some other kinds of things here. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It's like a best of ultimate collection, which is sort of nice that they're putting this together. Clear, transparent vinyl, mastered at half speed for superior audio quality. Features Lucky Man, C'est La Vie, From the Beginning, Take a Pebble, Fanfare for the Common Man, Karn Evil 9, and The Barbarian. Limited to LP release. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more kind of best ofs and collections this fall. I was just speaking with someone about that the other day and named off a bunch of bands that I thought could use greatest hits or whatever. And then I went and looked, and not only are there some greatest hits albums coming out, but there are also some that I mentioned that artists that I thought needed them. So, or have had them, but maybe haven't had them pressed on vinyl. So you'll be seeing more of that turning up in the videos this fall. Who Cares? This is a collection from Ian Gillan and Tony Iommi, sort of Black Sabbath related stuff. This says, a fine collection curated by two true hard rock icons for the first time on colored vinyl. This is on Ear Music, and this is limited edition white vinyl, 2 LP, full of rarities, classics, and special gems by Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Ian Gillan, and Tony Iommi solo. So there's that. That's what's on the back. All right, another reissue. This guy has 1 million albums, and Willie Nelson, Phases and Stages. Interesting, Willie, apparently, I was not aware that he recorded for Atlantic for a little while. I always think of him as a Columbia artist, but this is a 1974 outlaw country concept album featuring Bloody Mary Morning, I Still Can't Believe You're Gone, and It's Not Supposed to Be That Way, on crystal clear vinyl. Yeah, so little classic Willie there. All right, King Gizzard, Polygon Dwanaland. Well, this was from the series of the 5 records they did in the 1 year. Was it 2018, 2019? 2017. Okay. Well, the year that they sort of broke through, and this is a limited edition red vinyl of only 500 copies. 500 copies. Well, that's one of their best albums of that era, I think. All right, and continuing with the reissues, we get Graham Parsons, and this is the lost recordings of Graham Parsons, 1965 to 66. This is Graham like he's basically a teenager here, a kid. 13 originally unreleased demo recordings. Country rock pioneer and former member of the Byrds and founding member of Flying Burrito Brothers. Well, I guess he wasn't really a teenager, but recorded March 65 to April 66, featuring oh my God, pressed on sky blue vinyl. What is going on? I mean, did they just go to the sky blue vat this week and grab a bunch of the little pellets and say, We're making all these records on sky blue vinyl. That's hysterical. Okay. I swear to God, I didn't like plan that at all. All right, there better not be anything else, or I'll start thinking. No way. Well, it doesn't say sky blue. Jimmy Somerville, um, read my lips. Jimmy was the lead singer of Bronski Beat in the early '80s. Sang "Small Town Boy," "Runaway," sort of a gay anthem, and then he did stuff with the Communards, and then went solo. This was one of his I think this was the first solo album he did. Yeah, this one has his remake of You Make Me Feel Mighty Real. And it was a good sort of pop record. But you kind of have to be into Jimmy's voice, I think. He's got this very high falsetto. I would say he's like, England's answer to Sylvester or something. Maybe less flamboyant-y on stage, but it's a good album. What was I going to say about this? I can't remember. Um, oh, I was going to say 1989 pressed on blue vinyl. So there you go. It's not sky blue. I don't know what variant of blue that is, but robin egg blue? It's just blue. Okay, and then lastly, here in the reissue category, 3 records from the band Him, which were sort of a kind of a big tie-in with the Jackass TV show at the time, and these are super limited. So if you don't get one, I'm sorry. I think they were like highly limited. So anyway, here's one of them on sort of brown vinyl, sort of a brown marbly kind of like a sewer colored vinyl or something. Then there's Deep Shadows and Brilliant Highlights. I think the people who were into these albums like played them a lot. And Razor Blade Romance. And this one's on like a kind of a pretty pinkish. They're all sort of marble colored vinyl. So okay. I meant to mention when I was showing Slow Dive that they also have a cassette for it. And it's pink, whereas the record was sort of a cream color cover. And the CD, which, again, I don't know why they really shorted us on, is a sort of a green. It's a sort of, not really green, it's more lemongrass. I don't know, sort of a greenish tinge. Hopefully more of those will show up soon. New Coco Montoya CD. I think this is on vinyl too. Writing on the Wall. He's a blues artist. And if you missed it on Record Store Day, there's a couple of these floating around. Bars Simpson. This is the single that came out for Record Store Day, featuring MF Doom and Jay Electronica. Original version from the album White. What does it say? White Girl Wasted. All right. Okay, so what I had a few other things I wanted to mention this week. I'm gonna keep this a little briefer if I can. So my recommended album of the week, which I don't think I've done anything with with this artist before, and it's one that I have in the store, so I wanted to pick it. Although there are probably 3 other albums by this artist I could pick just as easily. But, and he's been so quiet for a while, although they did do reunions in 2018. But, and this is the album Soul Mining. This is not really Matt's debut, Matt Johnson, but this is sort of his second full length that I know of, and was the one that put him on the map with alternative college radio in the US back in 1982, 83. Of course, I don't put the original date on the back here. I believe it was like 82, but it might have been 83. So anyway, I love the artwork. all this stuff hanging around on the cover. Love this artwork. This was done, I believe, by I can't remember who his artist is. Hugh Feather, I think. Could be. Anyway, what can I say about that? I mean, first of all, it's the hardest name to search in Google these days because, how do you search the twice? But basically, Matt had kind of this was a much more melodic record than his first. You guys would probably, if you don't know who it is, you would know the song "This Is the Day," which is featured in the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And it's one of those songs, sort of like a Running Up That Hill for Kate Bush, that I think has the potential to sort of be either a hit now or be one of those perennial songs. It's already sort of one of those where you hear it and you go, oh, I've heard this song. I like this song. I maybe don't know who it's by. But Matt Johnson sort of came up with that song, and well, he did come up with that song. And so, yeah, this album is kind of a mix of like 80s, I want to say like kind of electronic alternative and sort of jangly stuff too. There's a fair amount of acoustic guitar on it. He's sort of like uses all of the different kind of instruments at his disposal to kind of create the sound. So there are, but it's also sort of a one-man show at this point in a way. So there's a lot of drum machine. And I had that discussion with someone the other day about how do you feel about drum machine? And I say, well, as long as it's used in the context of the music and used in a way that doesn't lessen the music or is combined with real drumming, I don't have a problem with it. Or if it's like they're using new sounds instead of just using all the presets on the machine, then that's interesting. Or sampling sounds, using samples as rhythm like Depeche Mode did in the mid 80s mostly. So anyway, yeah, this album begins with I've Been Waiting for Tomorrow All of My Life, which is kind of a dark, driving, sort of heavy dance beat kind of song with kind of a punchy drum machine on it. It sort of builds over the course of the song. Then This Is the Day is a very kind of like haunting a song that's sort of like ultimately optimistic, even in the face of like tragedies and stuff like that. You get some more atmospheric kind of songs on this record, like The Sinking Feeling, The Twilight Hour, and even Soul Mining. Those are sort of more kind of moody type songs, I guess. Giant at the end is sort of a long, extended, kind of almost more electro pop kind of song, I guess, but it's got a darker side for sure. And I would say Uncertain Smile is kind of a centerpiece of this album. It features piano solo from Jules Holland of Squeeze, great piano solo. And through friends, I know Dave Collard or Dean Collard, DC Collard, who's now the pianist of the live band for this, and he does an excellent job every time he plays that solo, which blows my mind. So anyway, and he was in the Joe Boxers back when this album was made. But I recommend the Soul Mining. If you want to check out other releases by the definitely listen to Infected, which is the album that followed this, which I think took a lot of the sonic ideas from this and sort of expanded them. He also did a video album for it at the time, which there's some cheesy elements, I suppose, because of when it was made, which was like 1984 or 85, but also is kind of interesting. And then and I really love that album. And then the albums that followed, Mind Bomb and Dusk, which are really sorely in need of reissuing and reissuing. I don't understand why this one has come out as a box set with extra material. It wasn't a big box set, but it had some things. And then they reissued the record for this and didn't do the others. I have a friend who has Dusk on vinyl, and it's, I don't know, that record's worth probably a couple $100 now, or somewhere, is at least over 100. And I think those are the records that we need to be getting more of reissued out there. So I have a little, thanks for listening to that. I have a little rantish thing this week, and it's sort of about related a little bit to this Red Hot Chili Peppers Stadium Arcadium up here. As you know, and I've been talking about it sort of frequently, that there are problems with, we had supply chain issues, and record companies, the big record companies, saw opportunities to raise prices in a lot of places, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, and it really didn't depend always on how easy it was to source the product that they needed to make these things. It was sometimes based on just like the popularity of a band or what they thought that they could get out of people. It's almost like they're pushing, in some cases, pushing the price just to see what they can get out of a consumer. And I really worry about that, because I'm worried that they're pushing away young buyers and people who maybe are sort of on the fence about certain things. Because it was one thing when all records were generally between $20 and $30, and now I would say most records are between $25 to $35, and there are quite a few that are hitting the $45 to $50 range, and it's a little disconcerting. It's not everything, and I can't complain about it too much compared to, like, country like England, or where the UK, where things are much more expensive even. But it is sort of a shock for Americans anyway, and I'm sure Canadians feel sort of like they've already been through it as well. So and whoever else happens to be watching from around the world. So anyway, my little note about this particular album. So you see this one here, which is, they're both the Smashing Pumpkins and the Red Hot Chili Peppers are little box sets, 4 records, about the same amount of material and whatever inside them. Well, the Chili Peppers record had been through a couple of different pricing things over the years, but for all of the few couple years leading up to the pandemic and during the pandemic, I was paying about $30 for that, and selling it for about $45, which I think to some people is like, hey, that's a deal for 4 records, and it really sort of was. But now, they were out of it for a while. They said the price is going to be changing. I just got this one in last week, and so what I was paying $30 for, now I'm paying $72 for it. And it had a $45 list that I was selling it at. Or it was, I think, 40, but I sold it for 45, and now they want me to sell it for 90. And I think it's like marked 94 because of the shipping costs and everything that we incur in there too. So that is more than double the price of what it was. Now, that being said, the Smashing Pumpkins box set is around $100 also, but it has been for a while. It's a bigger, sort of thicker, sturdier box. It's more specialized, I feel. And I don't know. Maybe these companies are just trying to price themselves out of making those boxes so fans won't buy them, and then they don't have to make them. I don't really know. It's probably another way of driving people to streaming, because they just get frustrated with the prices. I wish I had more control over that. We've said this to record companies ad nauseum, and they don't want to listen. They think about bottom lines, and they're like, well, people have records more now, and whatever. I mean, I'm just worried that we're turning off a lot of young people. And it's sort of funny how I have seen kind of a little bit of a boost in CD sales again lately. And I think a lot of people, younger people, say, well, CDs are economical, and I can't afford all of these records. So I'm going to try and mix it up or go more for CDs. So that's my 2 cents. I just want you guys to know that it's not us. So anyway, next week, September 8th, is a pretty big release week. Let me just run down some of the things. There's Olivia Rodrigo, her sophomore record. Tyler Childers has his new release. And then there's an album with Talib Kweli and Madlib that sort of popped up that I'll be carrying. There's a couple of big live albums. Doors live at the Matrix. That's from 1967, and that's the I believe, full set of tapes. Fleetwood Mac's Rumors tour live. There's a full live show on vinyl and CD. Postal Service, their reunion with Jenny Lewis, and I believe she's on that. But yeah, sort of Death Cab, sort of Gibbard related stuff. Let's see, other reissues. Well, REM, this is the thing. REM, Accelerate and Reveal were supposed to come out originally on August 25th. And then for some reason, Reveal got bumped to the 1st, and then it got bumped to the 8th. And Accelerate also apparently was supposed to be bumped, but it didn't. I don't know if it ended up in the system or not. Some people ended up with copies of Accelerate, and I technically don't know if those were even supposed to have shipped. We're still waiting for them. So if you see it, I guess either buy it or wait to get it from us, because we should have it next week. And I'm really looking forward to Reveal, because some people like to poo-poo that album for REM, but I think it's a great album. Sort of more like an Automatic for the People in tone in some ways. Morphine, there's a bunch of Morphine albums being reissued. The Cure Show, the one that was the Record Store Day picture disc, is coming out on black vinyl. There's 2 Prince reissues coming next week. They are the Batman soundtrack and the Graffiti Bridge soundtrack. And it was announced that the Diamonds and Pearls box set is coming out October 27th. And so there are a bunch of Prince things coming. They've also mentioned doing the Purple Rain box set from, it'll be like 8 years ago now. Sort of expanding that and putting that out again, and doing like a proper vinyl issue of it, because they didn't do that before. So, but that'll be probably next year. Other reissues coming out: Linkin Park's Meteora. There's a Mo record, Super Furry Animals, Phantom Power, and Tori Amos, Scarlet's Walk, first time on vinyl. And Sparkle Horse, a unreleased album from Mark Linkous. I don't know if that was like found somewhere or what, he's no longer with us. New albums from Roisin Murphy. She had a little controversy this week, but I think her heart's in the right place, so I don't know. Still like her music. Chemical Brothers, James Blake, Low Cut Connie, those are all new. Jonathan Wilson, Allison Russell, Graham Parker, Jake Shimabukuro, Joan Osborne, Darius Rucker, The Coral, and Carly Rae Jepsen all have new albums coming out. Folk Implosion do a reissue of their kids soundtrack material, sort of expanded the movie that they did for Harmony Korine in the 90s, the music that went on that. Also reissues from Rooney and Marvelous 3. So if you're like in that sort of late 90s, early 2000s, I think we're going to start seeing more of those kind of pop and punk pop albums and stuff like that. I've already seen things like Simple Plan and Gym Class Heroes and stuff like that. And then there's a new Nancy Griffith box set, which she passed away recently, and it's I don't know if it's all of her studio albums. I don't think it's all, but it's a fair amount of them. So anyway, if you're interested in that, let me know because I don't know if I'll probably be carrying it in store. So, all right. Well, hit the 40-minute mark, longer than I wanted to go. Thank you again so much for joining me, as always, and have a wonderful week. And I hope this was informative. I'll see you next time on the 8th. Peace. Have a wonderful Labor Day in the U.S. Take care. Be safe. Bye.